Hello everybody, let's do a desmos problem together. If you have never used desmos, or even if you have, why don't you go to www.desmos.com and we can start graphing. So I wanted to introduce you to a widget I like. Let's define a function called f of x, so you can just type a function name in this box. And then you can use the pipe symbol for absolute value, and the arrow key to move over by 1. So we're going to do absolute value x divided by x. And I'm going to turn on projector mode. Okay, well, so this is like a nice little function. It looks like for a value of 0, it's not defined. For positive x, it's positive 1. For negative x, it's negative 1. And you should definitely think about why that makes sense if you plug values in. Okay, so I'm going to transform this function a little bit. What I want to do is I want to vertically scale it by a factor of 2, so it's sort of half as tall, and then I want to shift it up by 1. So let's define a new function g, and I can use the definition of f in my definition of g. So I can say f of x, so if I want to shift it up by 1, I can add 1, so you see now I've shifted it up. If I want to, let's do that first. So then if I want to scale it down by a factor of 2, I'll divide that whole thing by 2. So I'm going to click this button right here so that I don't display my original function. So this one I like a lot. I call this one a switch, and I think you'll see why in a second. Notice that it's got a value of 0 for all negative x and an output of 1 for all positive x. So let's see what happens when we multiply the switch by different things. So let's graph g of x times x squared. So I seem to have the right-hand side of x squared, but none of the rest of it. Let's do the switch times sine of x. So I've got sine of x for positive x, but again 0 for negative x. So I think you can probably imagine why this is happening. Again, if you think about plugging in negative x values and positive x values. You can put whatever you want here. Let's do tan x. And again, we have this same kind of phenomenon. Alright, so let's play around with this one step further. Let's try and apply some transformations to the switch so that we're switching our other function in different places. So I'm going to go back to sine x, I guess. So I'm going to start out by shifting my switch 2 to the right. So here I'm going to undisplay the original switch. Alright, so if I shift the switch 2 to the right, it seems like the switching is now starting to happen at 2. If I shift it by 2 to the left, now the switching is starting to happen at negative 2. What happens if I reflect the switch around the y-axis this way? So it seems like now the switching is happening on the negative side instead of the positive side. What makes this cool is you can start putting these ideas together. So I'm going to take the original switch, and I'm going to take the version of it. Let's make another version of it. I'm going to make another version of it where I have reversed it, and then I've shifted it right by 2. So here's the version where I've reversed it and switched it right by 2. Here's the version that's the original version. What happens if I take both of these switches, the original switch and this new one, and I put them together by multiplying them? So now I've got sort of a regular switch, which switches on for positive x. This switch switches on for all x less than 2. And this is the function that I'm trying to do the switching of. So it seems like it's 0 at all the locations except between 0 and positive 2. Let's change this to 8. Let's try and shift this by 2. So you see, by having a combination of shifted and reflected switches, I can really kind of turn on and off different parts of the domain of whatever function I want. And that's what I think is kind of neat. So feel free to play around with this a little bit yourself. Please answer the last question on the homework, which I think should be easy now that you've seen a lot of it. And if you think of anything else cool that you can do with this kind of thing, please let me know.